John Macfalane, Boating New Zealand. We're sitting here aboard the Beale 33 Silver Eye, owned by Steve Raea, who's just spent the last 18 months doing the full Monty restoration. This is your 20th keel boat, Steve, so this is not your first rodeo. Tell us about how this project started and what attracted you to it.
I've had so many different boats, and I've never had one that you could loosely describe as being anything like new. Now, buying a new boat was never in part of my equation. So I thought, well, look, what's the boat that I think works the best for me and my wife, economically, in terms of size, performance and comfort, and in that 10 metre range, which is the berth we've got, and we've worked out that 10 metres is absolutely fine for us. We've had boats from 48 feet down to 31 feet, and the 10 metre Beale 33, I've had one before and really liked that boat. So I thought, well, there's so many boats out there, you can't save them all, but I'm going to take one and do my absolute best to try and make it as close to a new boat as I can. Obviously there's limitations in that, but that was my goal. So I found this boat in, without exaggerating, pretty rundown state, which made it semi-affordable, and made the call that I would back it out of the marina, down the fairway, straight into a travel lift, up into a shed, which I was lucky enough to find that was affordable, and do my absolute best to prove to myself that I could do it, and try and produce something as close to new within reason as I could. I didn't have any competency or skill. I don't know why I thought I could do it, but the challenge, I think, is what drove me to it, but also wanting to save a good Kiwi boat, because I love our Kiwi boats. I work as a broker and I sell a lot of production boats and stuff, and they don't talk to you the way Kiwi wooden boats do. And as much as they're comfortable, these New Zealand built boats are what I call real boats.
So you touched on, this is the timber version, there was a GRP version produced, but you're not so keen on the looks of the GRP version, you prefer the timber look, especially to the cabin top, right?
Well, and the interior as well.
Yes.
The GRP version was, in my opinion, wasn't finished that well. The cabinetry wasn't great. The bench heights were a bit high. And there was no escaping that they were GRP production boats. The window lines were different. When Ray drew this boat, he drew it as a timber boat, and that's what I wanted.
And looking at all the jobs that you've had to do, what was the most challenging job of the whole lot for you?
For me, the tow rails were the most challenging from a time perspective, and if I was going down this track again, I wouldn't do it again, because they were teak timber tow rails, but I wanted painted tow rails because they were fairly worn. So, I had to give them, obviously take them back to bare teak. I then had to rebuild basically areas that had gone in epoxy and glass, then had to cove them all in micro balloons. And I had very little experience with that sort of stuff, and so you're trying to work on a small edge. How do you get it to work? Well, that was a learning curve, but it just went on and on and on, and I must have spent countless hours filling and fairing and glassing and coving, and then filling and fairing and glassing, coving, sanding it off and starting again, and it just went on and on and on and on. But the end result, I think, is great, because I wanted it to last. So,
that's one of those things that when you look at a finished boat, you can just glance over it. Yes, the tow rail, but often there's a whole lot of work behind these seemingly quite simple things.
That's right, And I learned, you go along and ask a boat builder to do what you think is a simple job that will take half an hour, and they come back and say, well, we're not going to quote on that because we don't know how long it's going to take. And you don't know how long it's going to take.
No. Now, you have repainted the whole boat out, inside and out, and you did it in a particularly cost-effective manner by doing all the grunt work yourself, the primer and all the undercoat and the
Yeah.
sanding, and then just bringing in someone with a bit more skill with a spray gun. And that's worked out. It looks magnificent outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of work. I mean, what I learned about boat painting is you put it on and you sand it off. You put it on, you sand it off, and you put it on, you sand it off, and you spend a lot of money buying this stuff that you just sand off, and it ends up dust in the ceiling. But that's just the way it goes. Yeah. So yeah, no, I did everything myself. Yeah, so just I just did it at my own pace. I originally thought this job was going to take 3 or 4 months. That's what I told my wife. And 3 or 4 months, I think I was only down to, look, it just wasn't going anywhere that time.
Now, tell me, Steve, along most of these projects, somewhere there's a diamond in amongst all the rough. So there must have been one job that went particularly well or gave you a particular sense of satisfaction when it was over. What was that job?
Well, that was pulling it out of the shed, John.
Okay.
That was pulling it out of the shed. The flat surfaces were great. I could do the foredeck. I think I knocked that out in 3 or 4 days, sanding. So there were some wins along the way.
Yeah. So you did prudently, because it had been raced so hard, pull the chain plates out and redo the bolts. So
did chain plate
critical.
bolts, did all the skin fittings, replaced the skin fittings with true design. I figured, if I'm at it, I might have to do all that stuff.
Exactly.
But other than that, there was no boat building as such. There was some glassing, obviously, that it had teak in the cockpit, so that all had to be sorted out. So there was quite a lot of fiberglassing and stuff in that process. But no, and I went through absolutely every inch of this boat, and I was very happy with the way the boat's been built. It was obviously built with a lot of care and attention. It was an amateur build, but they did a very nice job.
That's where you had a big advantage over your average boat buyer, and that you did know what to look for, and you did do your homework before you sign on the dotted line, which is, so many people get involved in these projects and find that it's way too much for their own skills, and they've ignored through inexperience, some huge structural issue that's going to come back and really bite them.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's why, and professionally we always say a survey is an absolute must. It doesn't matter what the price of the boat is.
Now, you mentioned at an earlier point to me that there was a couple of times when you really thought you'd bitten off a bit much, and you were sort of looking for an exit at one point. Can you tell us about the mental stress behind that time?
Sure. There were times, John, when this project really did become too much. And, there was one occasion when I looked at getting some professional help in and got a couple of quotes. But the numbers were just frightening. And so that wasn't an option. So the way I dealt with that is I tried to be very compartmentalised in the way I approached this. One of the hardest things is when you finish a task, to start another one. And, there were times where I thought, okay, well, I'll just get this part finished, and then we'll look at what we're going to do. In the end, it was basically, just toughen up. You got yourself into this, and you're going to have to get yourself out of this, because you can't afford to hire anyone to finish the boat. You can't afford not to keep working on the boat, because obviously you're paying shed rental and yard rental. You won't sell the boat in this condition, because nobody's going to take on a half-finished boat. So, take a hard nut pill, take a day off, a couple of days off, here and there, helped a lot. And then you'd get back into it. But it was interesting, a couple of times, as I say, I got a couple of quotes from local painters to come in and finish the boat, and they said, well, look, you are absolutely not alone. We get involved in so many of these jobs where people have started and they've just run out of steam, and so don't be embarrassed about it. But here's our price, and I think they started off at like 40 grand or 50 grand to basically just come in and squirt the boat, and a few little bits. But anyway, look, it was just never going to be an option.
No.
You know, I mean, everything was still off the boat, you know,
course,
I mean, so it was just a shell. So I quickly decided that wasn't going to be an option. And,
So now we've been back in the water for some months and all the pain has faded and you've had the joy of relaunching it and using the boat.
Yeah.
Has it met your expectations that you went into it
oh,
with?
absolutely, absolutely. What hasn't met my expectations is the bloody weather we've had. But no, look, it's been lovely, and you know, there's people walk by, and you know, very complimentary about the boat. And when we're out there, people come by and say, "Oh, what's the boat? You know, is it new?" Which is that's pretty gratifying. Of course, it's not new, but thank you very much. Yeah, yes. So it has. I mean, there's still a few little things to do, and you know, get familiar with the boat. But you know, we've enjoyed it. It's lovely, and you know, I think this will be our forever boat.
The restored Silver Eye is a real inspiration. Sitting downstairs takes one back to another era. She's the type of yacht many of us grew up lusting after. While perhaps lacking some amenities compared to modern European offerings, an updated Kiwi Cruiser Racer remains a very capable yacht. Besides offering comfortable cruising for a couple or small family, it's perfectly capable of punching back to Auckland from Great Barrier Island into a snotty 30-knot southwesterly. For those so inspired, there are numerous excellent examples of the classic Kiwi Cruiser Racer just begging to be restored to their former glory. Happy hunting!